So let's talk about EMS operations on the Fireground and how the medic unit that is called to a structure fire or a natural cover fire can integrate into the operations. We'll talk about rescued victims, we'll talk about then firefighters that may become victims, and then we'll talk about a little bit about some support operations that you may or may not be able to do based on your system. Rescued victims are the reason that you're dispatched to a fire scene. Sometimes they have already self-rescued and are waiting for you or waiting for the first arriving fire companies. Sometimes we find them during primary search. Primary search is our initial objective, our most important of the three incident priorities: life safety, incident stabilization, and then property conservation. So primary search is one of the first tactics that's assigned to crews. Go in there and find people that are viable and bring them out. Sometimes those people are not visible, not readily available to us on the primary search, and they're located later. And that occurs during the secondary search. That's typically several minutes into the event when we're making a double check to make sure that everything is clear, and rarely a patient may be located during that time. Your first thing you're thinking about when you arrive at a fire scene is, how are you going to get out? Because your purpose there is to transport people emergently, and so it's imperative that you not be blocked in by hose lines. That means you're probably not going to be all that close to the actual fire. You're going to need to bring your cart with essential gear up to the scene. That's usually based on custom or practice with your service. A good suggestion would be that cardiac monitor and your ALS first in pack, because emergent airway and emergent treatment may be necessary. So plan on working a code, and you're going to be pretty well prepared. So you'll probably need to bring your cart and your gear to the command post. In most places, you find the command post based on a green light. In our system, all of our officers have flashing green lights that go on their roof, and so look for the green light. In our system, we use an incident commander and a command aide, so there are two people at the command post, typically in a vehicle with the windows rolled up so that they can hear emergent radio traffic. The aide will be on the side of the green light, and that's where you go to. So go to the green light is the bottom line. Radio traffic is also key, and there's a lot of radio traffic, sometimes hard to understand, traffic coming through air pack masks and such. But we use a tactical channel for our operations. There's a dispatch channel that you're dispatched on, and then you are told during the response that the tactical operations are on a certain channel. So you arrive with dispatch on your dispatch channel and then switch to the designated tactical channel. Locally, we use, at least currently, we use colors to designate our tactical channels. Our primary tactical channel for Boone County Fire is gold. Our secondary tactical channel is yellow. Columbia Fire uses brown as their primary and gray as their secondary. But everybody has all the channels, and so listen carefully to determine what the TAC channel is you should be on. It doesn't do any good to be on that channel if you don't hear the traffic when you're called, so you need that radio speaker near your ear. The lapel mics, extendable mics, really make that much more practical. And we need you to answer on the first call. When command calls you, you need to answer up on the first call. Your radio designator may be the medic unit number that you're using. We may just refer to you as medic unit. We may refer to you as EMS, particularly if we've made you into a group. So that leads us into briefly talking about your incident management system role and a quick review of the incident management system. Now, many of you have taken or will have to take the NIMS courses listed at the bottom there, NIMS 100, 200, 700, 800. That's the standard 4-pack of classes that most working paramedics have to endure. And so I don't want to go back through that sort of stuff, and it's all good material, but I can boil it down here to a few key things. First of all, we use the incident management system on all incidents, from a simple medical emergency to a dumpster fire to a multi-company commercial structure fire with trapped victims, or a hazmat, or a building collapse. So the very, very small to the very, very large, because we want to use a tool every day that we're going to use on a really bad day. The incident management system is scalable. It is flexible. So what's meant by that? Well, scalable means that On the small incidents, the incident commander handles all the functions of operations, logistics, planning, and admin. But on larger incidents, when the span of control becomes large enough that any one particular task is too complex for the incident commander to manage, then the incident commander will scale the organizational chart up and start breaking off into various sections or groups or divisions or branches, and that's where the terminology gets kind of interesting. I'll show you a chart here in just a second of a standard structure fire in our system, and I think it'll make more sense there regardless of the terminology. IMS is also flexible. That means that you can run an incident with one particular organizational chart, and I can do it a different way, and we may both be right. So it's flexible and adaptable to the situation. A key concept here is unity of command, which really allows us to maintain accountability. Unity of command, not unified command, that's a different deal. Unity of command means that you answer to one person and one person only. And in many cases, rank has nothing to do with it. It's your role in the incident management system, your role on the chart. So unity of command means that you know who you're answering to, and it's just one person. Then there's a couple of terms about groups and divisions that seems pertinent for medics. Groups are functional tasks. They are assigned to a function. In the EMS world, that might be triage, it might be treatment, it might be transport. In the fire world, we have a water supply, a group of units that are working on the same sort of function, or ventilation, or salvage. A group is several crews, several resources assigned for a function. Divisions, on the other hand, is a geographical thing. Natural cover fires, we may have a north division and an east division based on the scale of the incident and how many people are working and geographically what it looks like. On a structure fire, typically those are, in our system at least, those are based on sides of the structure. So as you're facing the structure that's on fire, that is the alpha side. And then working clockwise, so the next one around the left clockwise is Bravo. The back side, so to speak, would be Charlie, and then the right side, so to speak, would be Delta. A lot of times if your command post is on the alpha side, the front side, you can't see very well on the back side, so Division C, Division Charlie, or Charlie Division is a fairly common division that we use. So I just wanted to say those two terms because out of all the stuff in the NIMS courses, scalable, flexible, unity of command, and this group division terminology is what you need to be able to function. Here's a real simple, pretty standard ICS or IMS org chart that we would use on a structure fire. The incident commander has several functions that they're responsible for, and they start breaking those out when they become too complex or there's too much traffic. Too much activity going on with that function, whichever. It may not be complexity, it may just simply be activity that causes them to need to scale up the org chart. A lot of times we will move to a fire attack or interior, a group supervisor that is operating with several crews underneath of them, whereas the incident commander is still concerned with the overall incident. This fire attack group supervisor takes on that specific task of dealing with the fire. And then we have other sections. So I put EMS up there separate from rehab. We definitely don't want you to think that medic units are called to our structure fires in order to hand out water and check temperatures in rehab. The medic unit is there for victims. Hopefully not firefighter victims. Hopefully not any victims at all. Hopefully the EMS resource is unneeded to do any patient care. But primarily for victims, secondarily for our own folks in a force protection kind of thing. And then rehab is a separate area, and we'll talk about that here a little bit coming up. But I just want to give you a pretty standard schematic of what a usual structure fire looks like in our system. So let's talk about rehab. In our system, we talk about recycle and we talk about rehab. Recycle is when firefighter has exited the structure and is getting a new bottle of air and drinking a bottle of water. It's no more complex than that. There's no vital signs being checked. There's only a cursory examination, if anything, that's going on. It's basically buddy system. checking every member in your crew to make sure you're okay to get back in. Recycle is quick. Medics are welcome to help at recycle if you know how to change air bottles and you know how to pass out water bottles. There's nothing wrong with you helping at recycle as long as you don't get distracted, as long as you don't miss radio traffic and you don't forget that you're there for victims and the folks in recycle are simply getting another bottle of air to go back in. Rehab's a different deal. Rehab is where we try to get the firefighters healthy again and get them back to work. We do an entry check on some vital signs in most cases. Then there's a time of rehab, and that varies depending on the amount of activity and exertion they were doing, their physical capabilities. And then there's an exit check. The exit check is usually done by fire department staff, although sometimes medics will jump in there and help a little bit. Again, just like recycle, as long as you don't get distracted, don't get sucked into rehab and miss traffic and miss that your primary purpose there is for dealing with victims. Kind of a seat of the pants criteria that some places use is on that exit check, the firefighter's got to be in double digits. Their temperature's got to be under 100, their heart rate's got to be under 100, their diastolic's got to be under 100. So we like 100 is a good round number. We don't want to send people back into the fire when they have temps greater than 100 or heart rates more than 100. Patients may come to you from rehab. If they're unable to pass the exit check, they may come to you from rehab. In that case, you now have a patient, and you probably need to get another medic unit because now your role has changed somewhat, and you're not just helping. You now have a patient you need to take care of, which means we need another crew to deal with any victims that may happen. So that's just kind of a general overview, and wanted to make a few quick comments about EMS operations on the Fireground.